MarkRogersTV having just taken in the Purdue win over Arizona 38-35, the Boilers' first bowl game and bowl victory since 2012, capping off a rather successful 7-6 campaign after going 4-5 in the Big Ten. Arizona had a tremendous bounce-back year as well after losing all of its games in the Pac-12, but one against Arizona State in 2016 in winning 7 games, but sliding down the stretch and losing in this bowl performance as a 3-point favorite against Purdue. Boilers win at 38-35 with the last-minute touchdown pass with about $1.45 in the game, with Elijah Sindelar hitting the tight end Anthony Mahungu. Mahungu had to be taken in after making the catch and falling to the ground for x-rays and could not celebrate with his team after the game. And he actually had several drops, but he's an interesting story in which he didn't grow up playing American football, didn't grow up in America, grew up in France and played soccer. Found out about American football watching the Super Bowl on television, having never known anything about American football. And here he is just years later as a Purdue tight end. And we know what the tight end situation is with Jeff Brom's offenses, meaning splitting out, catching 6 passes tonight for 118 yards and a touchdown in the game winner with one hand and defeating Arizona 38-35. So I believed that this would be a back-and-forth battle. It didn't take a brain surgeon or any kind of college football guru to know that these teams would put up tremendous offense. Purdue, 555 in total yardage, and Arizona, 430 yards in total offense. So considering what the Wildcats do rushing the football, this was the #1 rushing offense in college football for most of the season. I didn't check the final numbers, but they were definitely in the top 3, along with the Air Force Academy and Army and Navy, the military academies, rushing the football. And that, of course, because of Khalil Tate and his record-setting performances throughout the season. Started out by that 327 spot that he hung on Colorado. But he took Arizona to postseason play, but he could not get loose against this Purdue defense. And what a job Nick Holt has done since coming over with Jeff Brom from Western Kentucky. Nick Holt was Brom's defensive coordinator there with the Hilltoppers. Brom gets the job, brings his defensive coordinator with him when it was obvious that Holt was not going to get the head coaching position there with Western Kentucky. And Nick Holt has taken a defense that gave up nearly 40 points per game last year and held offenses in the Big Ten and Louisville on the schedule as well to 24 points per game, reduced the yardage from near 500 yards per game to 390, and then tonight held Arizona down. And I understand that they scored 35 points, but considering this type of game, this team tackled in space. They limited the big play. They did give up some plays over the top, but they definitely came into the game understanding what it needed to do in setting the edge and boxing in Khalil Tate and not letting him force it straight up the middle. Khalil Tate, with all the speed that he has, you would think would gain most of his yardage out on the perimeter. But he has gashed defenses getting from point A to point B quickly, north and south, and gashing the defenses, and then he lowers the shoulder. Unlike a Lamar Jackson, he's a more physical runner despite being just a sophomore. Khalil Tate with a tremendous game in this one with 5 touchdown passes. Was able to, for the most part, he's not a polished quarterback at this stage in his career, but he was able to take what is typically the run game. If you look at Khalil Tate's best games this year, he runs for 150 to 300 yards. He passes 12 to 15 to 18 times. He completes a ton of those passes. He's very efficient. Excuse me, but they don't ask for him to throw it a ton, and they had to tonight as they got down 31-14 at half after leading 14-7. Purdue really just a tremendous job by the defense here on the Purdue side. And the difference also in these two teams was Purdue could run it from the running back position, and Arizona could not. Greg Knox had 11 carries. Greg Knox with Mississippi State. DJ Knox from the running back position, 11 carries for 102 yards. And Markel Jones had 21 carries for 86 yards as Purdue was able to move the sticks and keep the defense honest. We haven't even talked about the Boilers' passing attack led by Elijah Sindelar, who threw it 33 times, 53 attempts, 33 completions, 396 yards, and the 4 touchdown passes. The 1 interception, not his fault, is actually, I mentioned the tight end Anthony Mahungu. I possibly am butchering his name, Mahahangu, who caught the game-winning touchdown passes. Also had a couple drops in this game that really cost Purdue, but he made up for it with the big catch and 118 yards total, and deflected the interception to Arizona. That was the 1 pick by Sindelar. Otherwise, Elijah Sindelar was tremendous in this game. So Purdue, with the Jeff Brom running this passing offense, them still wanting to mount a power running attack out of that spread, like a number of teams that we could mention at the elite status there in the Big Ten, a la Ohio State, the spread that emphasizes power running and then playmaking out of several wide receivers. And tonight it was a kid in Gregory Phillips who was tremendous. 30 catches on the season coming in, 14 receptions tonight for 149 yards and 2 touchdowns. And it wasn't just one type of pass reception out of Phillips. He ran the outs. So he ran right at the corner, was able to cut out, make the corner route, the square out completion a number of times. Also hit the seam and outran the defense for a couple of his touchdowns, and also caught the ball underneath on the drag route and was quick in space in eluding Arizona defenders in space and picking up extra yardage. He was a handful on this night. So Purdue wins it over Arizona 38-35, caps off the Boilers at 7-6, the Cats at 7-6 as well. And just a bright future for both programs, depending on considering what they accomplished this season compared to last season. And Purdue's been down for quite some time, but it looks like they have a keeper in Jeff Brom. Now, looking ahead to next season, Purdue at 7-6 has scheduled Eastern Michigan, Missouri for a return trip. Mizzou lost tonight to Texas in the Texas Bowl, and also lost to Purdue at home in Columbia, Missouri, 35-3. Probably the most impressive performance by the Boilers up until tonight throughout this season. And then Purdue also takes on a Boston College team that they should be able to match statistics, match game tape with, because BC, of course, a loser tonight in a close game against Iowa, a team that Purdue faces each and every year. For Arizona at 7-6, typical Cats schedule out of conference, BYU, Houston, and Southern Utah. Also of note, Purdue will have to face Ohio State and Michigan State in the Big Ten Eastern Division. Also want to note that at one point in the game, I looked at Purdue's points against, and considering that they held Wisconsin to 17 points, as we mentioned, Drew Lock and Mizzou to 3 points. They also held down Iowa to 15. A lot of quality teams. Northwestern, even though they lost that game, the Wildcats only scored 23 points with Justin Jackson and Clayton Thorson. So Purdue, this is legit what they did on defense tonight. It doesn't look impressive on the scoreboard, but considering this type of football game, wide open and a lot of possessions and a lot of plays run, tried to get the number of plays for the Wildcats, but Purdue really held them in check and actually kept the ball for 33 minutes to 27 for Arizona in winning 38-35. Appreciate you joining me for this instant analysis. Hope to come back with a Texas-Mizzou game recap as soon as possible. I wasn't able to watch this one start to finish because I had my focus on the Boilers and the Wildcats, but I will check in with Texas and Missouri once I watch the tape, and also possibly reel in a contributor for the Longhorns' big win, their first in postseason play since the days of Mac Brown. Certainly, we enjoy your comments and invite you to come in and make your questions and comments known. I get to as many as possible, and also enjoy reading your comments and the conversations and discussions and debates that you have between yourselves. For the very best in college football content, keep it right here to Mark Rogers TV.